What's up out there, YouTube? This is James coming back at you with another informative video. I hope all is well with you guys out there on this beautiful Monday. All is pretty good over here. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware with this situation right here. We got the UN calls for reparations to remedy the historical wrongs of trafficking enslaved Africans, our ancestors. This abominable tragedy that has plagued our people, ever since we fell, we are still suffering from to this day. And these people, every so often, every so many years, always want to come around and fake like they care, as though, well, we want to remedy the problem, by basically giving you reparations. Y'all got all kinds of millions and trillions and billions of dollars for war. Look at what U.S. is involved with Israel and Iran. Okay? Billions and trillions of dollars for war, but you can't or just won't write a check for so-called African Americans, to put this thing to rest. I know you're not going to do it because it's not written that you will, but it is written that you are going to pay nevertheless. I guarantee you, all of you nations will before it's all said and done. You see, many, many, many years ago in those biblical days, it was said that the nations, it's written, the nations said, let us come together to cut them off from being a nation so that their names will never be remembered again. I'm paraphrasing, but they were talking about us, these same nations right here. It's just different generations, just like it is with us, right now. And hey, they did it then, and they're going to try to keep their foot on the gas until the Most High Himself comes back to actually rectify this situation once and for all, and the shoe will be on the other foot. I can guarantee you that it is written. You see, now to get into this article right here, United Nations, AP. This is where this article comes out of. AP. The UN General Assembly on Wednesday adopted a resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans the gravest crime against humanity and calling for reparations as a concrete step towards remedying historical wrongs. The resolution also urges the prompt and unhindered restitution of cultural items, including artworks, monuments, museum pieces, documents, and national archives to their countries of origins without charge. Okay? They even took all of our goods and everything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just took everything, right? Everything strong armed robbers do. All right, now to continue. The vote in the 193 member world body was 123 by -3, with 52 abstentions. Argentina, Israel, and the United States were 3 members voting against the resolution. The United Kingdom and all 27 members of the European Union were among those that abstained. While the United States opposes the past wrongdoings of the transatlantic slave trade and all other forms of slavery, it does not recognize a legal right to reparations for historical wrongs that were not illegal under international law at the time they occurred, Deputy U.S. Ambassador Dan Negria said before the vote. Okay, so trafficking people and treating them like animals and enslaving them, murdering them, raping them, all that kind of stuff wasn't against the law, international law. Come on, man. If it was done to your people at that time, I guarantee you, well, you'd be addressing it. As a matter of fact, all these other nations, that suffered a tad bit, you see what I mean? However way they suffered, got so-called reparations. Well, what's wrong with so-called African American people? In your eyes, I already know it. It's because you know who we are. And you also know what the prophecy said when it's all said and done. The shoe will be reversed on the other foot. I guarantee you. You will pay. You will pay. You gonna pay. Now, to continue here, the United States also strongly objects to the resolution attempt to rank crimes against humanity in any type of hierarchy. He said, the assertion that some crimes against humanity are are less severe than others objectively diminishes the suffering of countless victims and survivors of other atrocities throughout history. Okay? They come up with all kinds of jargon, man, try to make it sound professional. To continue here, in the United States, support for reparations gained momentum in the wake of the murder of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer in 2020. However, the issue has been a difficult one and has been caught up in a border conservative backlash over how race, history, and inequality are handled in public institutions. Unlike UN Security Council resolutions, General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding but are an important reflection of world opinion. Today, we come together in solemn solidarity to affirm truth and pursue a route to healing and reparative justice. Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama, a key architect of the resolution, said before the vote. I'm curious to know, when is this vote going to hurry up and take place so we can know. I already know what it is though. They ain't gonna do it, and if they do, okay, I will be surprised. Okay, but you still gonna pay one way or the other. To continue, the adoption of this resolution serves as a safeguard against forgetting. He said, let it be recorded that when history beckoned, we did what was right for the memory of the millions who suffered the indignity of slavery. Mahama noted that the vote was taking place on the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, honoring the memory of about 13 million African men, women, and children enslaved over several centuries. Diplomats applauded and some cheered the adoption of the resolution. The history of slavery and its devastating consequences and long-lasting impacts must never be forgotten, said British acting UN Ambassador James Kirkery, something like that, speaking on behalf of mainly Western nations, including some that enslaved Africans. Okay, we're not Africans, but be that as it is, let's continue. Western nations are committed to tackling the root causes that persist today. He said, pointing to racial discrimination, racism, xenophobia, and intolerance. He said the scourge of modern slavery also must be addressed: trafficking, forced labor, sexual exploitation, and forced criminality. That's just to name a few, people. That's just to name a few. The things that these folks, it's hard for me to use terms like people and folks have done to us as a people. Okay? Cyprus Deputy UN Ambassador Gabriel Michael Lodia, speaking on behalf of the EU, echoed the US and UK on concerns about the use of superlatives that imply a hierarchy among atrocity crimes. Michael Lodia also cited the EU's concern about the resolution's unbalanced interpretations of historical events and legal references that are inaccurate or inconsistent with international law, including suggestions of a retroactive application of international rules which was not existed at the time, and claims for reparations. You know, when you wrong somebody, it's even in the Bible that you're supposed to make restitution. Okay, you're supposed to make restitution, but you know this place here, United States, is using for example, claim that it is a Christian nation, but I guarantee you, you are not. Your Christianity is not based off of the Holy Bible. It's not. Because if it was, you wouldn't have a problem with rectifying this situation right here. Because you know that is what's written. You see? Now let's continue. The resolution unequivocally condemns the trafficking of enslaved Africans and racialized chattel enslavement of Africans, slavery, and the transatlantic slave trade as the most inhumane and enduring injustice against humanity. In approving the resolution, the General Assembly affirms the importance of addressing the historical wrongs of slavery that promotes justice, human rights, dignity, and healing. Okay? Well, that's the way you want to put it, but if you really cared, looks like to me that you would make it happen. You would. See, this is just something that's going to come and go just like it always have, and it's going to be to where it's a no-go. It ain't going to be no reparations for us given to us from the hand of the enemy. And if it does, then hey, I'll stand corrected. Okay? But like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. In conclusion here, the resolution calls on UN members the resolution calls on UN member nations to engage in talks on reparatory justice, including a full and formal apology, measures of restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfactions, guarantee of non-repetition, and changes to laws, programs, and services to address racism and systematic discrimination. And we got that going on as we speak. And they ain't gonna change that. They ain't changing nothing about no discrimination. Okay? It encourages voluntary contributions to promote education on the transatlantic slave trade and asks the African Union, the Caribbean Community, the Caribbean Community, and the Organization of American States to collaborate with UN bodies and other nations on reparatory justice and reconciliation. Okay, I believe it when I see it. Okay, I really would. They can quit because you see how I got this whole thing right here. This whole slavery thing was an abomination to be stolen, shackled, and shipped off to a foreign land and it just took through horror and all kinds of things that most people worst nightmares don't even basically consume of. Okay, and that's just what it is. So what say you people? Do you think that they're going to give so-called African Americans reparations to make restitution for the wrongs and crimes committed against us? Or do you think they're blowing smoke as they usually do? I'd like to know. Let me know in the comment section. That's if you can. They can't even let y'all even comment properly without writing something down and then erasing the comment. You see? So they ain't gonna give up no reparations. They can't stand the truth for one thing. They can't even stand to read the truth. If you say something and they say keep your comments respectable, they do be. No profanity is used or nothing like that or what have you. People just speaking their minds. But yet still, they erase y'all comments. You see what I'm saying? Then that's just what it is. But like I said, eventually, they're gonna pay. But if you can, let me know in the comment section. If you can, just at least make an attempt. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe as well. People, please remember to live your life as though we're being watched. Simply because we are. This is James, and I'm out. Peace.